Deepwater Horizon oil spill puts doubt on BP. Staring day after day at images of oil gushing from an undersea well in the Gulf of Mexico, many Americans are struggling to make sense of the conflicting, changing numbers. On Monday, BP said a cap was capturing 11,000 barrels of oil a day from the well. The official government estimate of the flow rate is 12,000 to 19,000 barrels a day, which was made before they cut the pipes, which means a new device should be capturing the majority of the oil. But is it? With no consensus among experts on how much oil is pouring from the wellhead, it is difficult, if not impossible, to assess the containment cap's effectiveness. BP has stopped trying to calculate a flow rate on its own, referring all questions on that subject to the government. Why? Because it's about money, about how much money they're going to have to pay out. The company's liability will ultimately be determined in part by how many barrels of oil are spilled. So, BP has an incentive to lie. The immense undersea gusher of oil and gas seen on live video feed looks as big as it did last week, or bigger, before the company cut through the pipe known as a riser to install its new collection device. At least one expert, Ira Leifer, who is part of a government team charged with estimating the flow rate, is convinced that the operation has made the leak worse, perhaps far worse than the 20% increase that government officials warned might occur when the riser was cut. Dr. Leifer said in an interview that judging from the video, cutting the pipe might have led to a several-fold increase in the flow rate from the well. The well pipe clearly is fluxing way more than it did before, said Dr. Leifer, a researcher at the University of California, Santa Barbara. By way more, I don't mean 20%. I mean multiple factors. Again, by way more, I don't just mean 20%. I mean multiple factors. Asked about the flow rate at a news conference at the White House on Monday, Admiral Thad W. Allen, the Coast Guard commander in charge of the federal response to the oil spill, said that as BP captured more of the oil, the government should hopefully be able to offer better estimates of the flow from the wellhead by tracking how much reaches the surface. That is the big unknown that we're trying to hone in and get the exact numbers on, Admiral Allen said. And we'll make those numbers known as we get them. We're not trying to lowball it, or highball it. It is what it is. Speaking at a briefing in Houston on Monday, Kent Wells, a BP executive involved in the containment effort, declined to estimate the total flow and how much it might have increased. He said that video images from the wellhead showed a curtain of oil leaking from under the cap. How much that is, we'd all love to know, Mr. Wells said. It's really difficult to tell. And, of course he's going to say that, because it's about how much money BP will have to be paying out. He also said that more than 27,000 barrels of oil have been collected, and that engineers are working to optimize the collection rate. On Sunday, engineers halted their efforts to close all 4 vents on the capping device because, even with one vent closed, the amount of oil being captured was approaching 15,000 barrels a day, the processing capacity of the collection ship at the surface. And there have been some estimates that say some 100,000 barrels a day are leaking from the wellhead. So, in other words, BP is capturing only a very small percentage of the total oil leaking out. The success of the containment device has cast new doubts on the official estimates of the flow rate. developed by a government-appointed team called the Flow Rate Technical Group. Before the riser pipe was cut, the group made estimates by several methods, including an analysis of video footage, and the overlap of those estimates produced the conservative range of 12,000 to 19,000 barrels a day that the team reported on May 27th. That was 2 to 4 times as high as the government's previous estimate of just 5,000 barrels a day, a number that had been widely ridiculed by scientists. Yet the scientists who produced that new range emphasized its uncertainty when they presented it. In fact, a subgroup that analyzed the plume emerging at the wellhead could offer no upper bound for its flow estimate. The Flow Rate Technical Group is scheduled to release a new estimate this week or early next, though it is not clear whether that report will take into account the changed circumstances of recent days. Some scientists involved in the Flow Rate Technical Group say that they would like to produce a better estimate, but they are frustrated by what they view as stonewalling on BP's part, including tardiness in producing high-resolution video that could be subjected to computer analysis, as well as the company's reluctance to permit a direct measurement of the flow rate. They said the installation of the new device and the rising flow of oil to the surface had only reinforced their conviction that they did not have enough information. It's apparent that BP is playing games with us, presumably under the advice of their legal team, Dr. Leifer said. It's 6 weeks it's been dumping into the Gulf, and still no measurements. On Monday, Mr. Wales, a BP executive, said the engineers had always felt that the oil traveling through the damaged riser created some back pressure that reduced the flow rate. We always expected to see some increase in flow when the riser was cut, he said. But he also added, it's difficult to do any calculations on that. And of course, that's what he's going to say. He has to say that because he's concerned about how much money BP is going to have to pay out. So, by BP not telling the whole truth, which they are not, they are lying. They are lying to the American people. The United States government should take charge of the operation. But they will say that they can't, because BP has the expertise. Anyway, this is all messed up. And there's something much bigger going on here. Much bigger. This is a sign. This is a sign, yes, a physical manifestation of revelation. Again, a physical manifestation of revelation. Ezekiel chapter 13, verse 18, and say, Thus saith the Lord God, Woe to the women that sew pillows to all armholes, and make kerchiefs upon the head of every stature to hunt souls. Will you hunt the souls of my people, and will you save the souls alive that come unto you? 19. And will ye pollute me among my people for handfuls of barley, for pieces of bread or money, to slay the souls that should not die, and to save the souls alive that should not live, by your lying to my people that hear your lies? Revelation chapter 16, verse 3. And the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea, and it became as the blood of a dead man. And every living soul died in the sea. 4. And the third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers and fountains of waters, and they became like blood. And again, this is another sign, a physical manifestation of revelation. Many signs are happening daily all around the world.